electronically advanced generations, the pros and cons. We're going to show you a short video.
And so just before I came out here, I read something. I read that a school district in Maine is planning to give iPads to all 300 of their kindergartners. Isn't that amazing? I read something. And also, it's crazy. Kindergartners are getting iPads. I mean, who thinks that's a good idea? Obviously, a lot of people. No. Really? That a 5-year-old would get something worth $650? No. I get nervous when I touch something $650. Like this wig. I can't imagine being trusted with an iPad in kindergarten. I just can't. When we were kids, they didn't trust us with scissors. They gave us plastic ones, those little plastic ones, and I had to wear a helmet at recess. That's what... I can't believe kids have access to that kind of technology. I mean, I only started texting a year ago, honestly, I did. And before that, Portia and I communicated exclusively through smoke signals. We would use a smoke signal, a drum, and we would take a blanket and lift it and then put it back, and then lift it, and then it was a lot of work. And then we updated to, we got carrier pigeons, and, oh, those are messy. So then we did the old tin cans and a string thing, and it was almost impossible to get out of that contract, but we did. And last year, we both got iPhones, and I've been texting and tweeting on my iPhone, and it's fast and it's easy, but the best thing about it is it autocorrects. That's my favorite thing about it. I don't even try to spell anymore. I get close enough, I just put some of the letters in, and I hit the space bar, and it automatically puts the right spelling in. And I don't feel guilty about it, because I have been spelling for years. I have earned autocorrect. Kindergartners, though, how are they going to ever learn how to spell or write, for that matter? When I was a kid, we got graded on penmanship. That's what we needed. And now kids don't even use pens. I like to write. I like the feeling of a nice pen in my hand and actually writing words. I'm sorry, you're fired. You know? Now, it feels good. When you write, you actually have to take time to think about what you're going to say. I just can't imagine a caveman when they had to do all the writing. They had to chisel into a stone. So it would take forever, you know. Running. Out. For. Food. Oh, I messed up. Then they had to go find another slate. Start all over again. But by the time they finished their note, they were eaten by a dinosaur. There you go, homeschoolers. My point is, we've come a long way in how we communicate, and I'm glad kids have access to iPads and computers. I just hope they don't spend too much time in front of computer screens. I hope that they also spend time in front of TV screens.
Have you ever played a video game for entertainment? Have you ever used a computer?
Have you had to use a cell phone before?
Or been on social networking sites?
Or play an educational video game?
These are things kids 40 years ago could not say. We have chosen 5 major electronic advances that we will talk about the pros and cons of each. And by a show of hands, I can safely say that most of you have probably played electronic video games for entertainment. And the pros of this is that violent juvenile crime rate decreased from between 1995 and 2008, since violent video games have been released. The true secret of why kids spend most of their time playing video games is because they use these skills to learn things they need for their lives lives in the 21st century. Doctors that play video games have 40% less rate of messing up during surgery, and video games use the same hand-eye coordination that doctors use for surgery. Playing video games before surgery also lowers the rate of errors during surgery. Facts. Gamers are usually risk takers. They take risks doing all the things like getting goals done and such. Obstacles are their motivation, and they value persistence, so they do it until they get it done. Teachers and game designers are the same. They want their audience, viewers, or students to be in the zone. They want them to be interested into their lesson or their game. The cons of video games. Violent video games use participation, and with the increased technology, that allows you to be more physical in the video game and feel like you're in the actual video game. Playing violent video games can cause aggressive behavioral scripts. This is developed from the repetition of actions and effects of the subconscious mind. There were studies in both the U.S. and Japan showed that kids that played video games before school showed more aggression than their peers. A boy in Japan a couple years ago was playing video games in the arcade. In Japan they have arcades, internet arcades, where you can pay, and you can play for however long you paid for. And his friends were there with him, and they were playing every day. They would join and meet up there after school or whenever. And this one boy stayed every day and would not leave. His friends thought he left because he said, "1 more hour and I'll leave and go home." So he went. So his friends went home and ate and slept and drank water and all the necessities you need for life. But this one boy did not. He stayed there for 3 days and he died the 3rd day, and his friends found him dead in this internet cafe. Another boy in Japan was playing a video game at home, and his parents would walk in and see how he was doing, ask him to come to dinner, but he would not listen to them, and he would keep playing. And he would not go. He told his parents that he would not leave until he beat the video game. So what happened was his dad finally came in asking where he was and why he wasn't coming to dinner or eating lunch or coming to breakfast or why he wasn't going out to play with his friends. And soon his mother came in, and he started, every time somebody came into his room, he would kill each family member one by one. So he would end up killing them. And that was, he went to jail for it and such. Anyway, fun facts would be, the average gamer is 35 years old. More than 1/3 of most gamers are women. 1 in 4 gamers are over 50 years old. 63% of parents think that video games are a positive part of their children's lives. Why do we play video games? Well, we try to achieve empowerment, creating and strengthening social bonds, and exercise. We all like to play video games and have fun, and end up having something in common with people that rock climb, people that play sports or hobbies. And the same thing that we all have in common is to be in the zone. There are also other types of video games other than entertainment, like educational video games.
Alright, educational video games are different from entertainment because they have cognitive, social, and behavioral emotions that relate to educational objectives. Some examples of educational video games are a game called Oregon Trail, where it would teach you how to survive through like the Pilgrims did when they first migrated to Oregon. And then there's also Brain Age that increases your memory and helps you learn better. And then there's a Math Blaster, which is a game where there's asteroids and you're in a spaceship and you have to guess the right answer of the math problem to destroy the asteroids. So some pros of educational video games is that they enhance education in a fast-paced manner rather than getting taught it. Another pro is that learning is more engaging with these video games in kids because from the beginning they love video games also. And then the last one is that educational video games improve mathematical abilities, communication skills, problem-solving skills, reading abilities, and spelling abilities. Some cons that come with video games, with educational video games and all kinds of video games, is that they cause bad posture in kids, which can lead to back pain, neck pain, wrist pain, and all that. And there was a study showing that a kid played video games for a week long, and he had all these problems, back pains. And after 1 week of not playing, he showed no symptoms of back pains or wrist pains. So, and then video games can also lead to a lack of mental stimulation in the brain because you're only using one part, which is mainly the frontal lobe of the brain while playing video games. And then the last part is that video games can cause obesity from lack of exercise, from being inside too long playing video games. In conclusion, educational video games are more prominent today in the United States, being used in different types of technologies like computers. Savannah's going to tell you more about the pros and cons of computers.
Okay, so computers are used every day, and we've seen more in the next generation of children, like mostly toddlers, are using it to play games, like Reader Rabbit, Jumpstart, games we used to play, but they're playing it at a younger age. Some pros are, since children play so many different video games, they learn different skills. Some games, like mathematical games, like 3-year-olds are learning how to add things. They're learning problem-solving skills, like they're learning how to solve problems that are meant for a higher age, how to think differently. They're learning critical thinking, like they're learning how to think, like as I said before, they're learning how to think in a different way. They're learning how to have teamwork, because if it's more than one player, usually, then they'll learn how to co-play with another player. And when children have to take turns and they learn how to limit themselves. And even when I was little, I had a problem with this, because when you're little, you don't know how to have too much of a good thing. And I had 2 sisters when I was little, and we used to play on the computer all the time. Oh my goodness! And we would literally have these giant fights over the computer, where it would be so ridiculous now that I look back on it. But we would just get so upset because we would have hour turns, and then it would turn into my sister having 2-hour turns, but I would have 30-minute turns, and it was pretty funny. And children are more important in learning these things at a younger age, which is making their brain develop faster. And that is actually really a good thing. Like my little brother Anthony, he's 5 years old. And he started playing the computer when he was 3 years old, and he's not playing anything crazy. He's playing Jumpstart and Reader Rabbit, and it's to the point where when he was 4, he was playing Jumpstart 2nd grade. And so when you're seeing this kind of stuff happen, it's kind of funny. And right now, currently, I think it's a result from playing these different things, and it's not just a result of playing the video games, the computer games. It's a result of interacting with him too. He can read fluently, not chapter books, sorry. He can read books, like Dr. Seuss books. He can read silently, and he also can add and subtract. And he thinks of it in a fun way too. He's not like discouraged by it. So also these games on the computer make it fun because they have little like animals doing stuff and like making games out of doing regular stuff you would learn in school that would normally be a bother to do. And some cons to computers would be, for little kids, would be that they don't know how to limit themselves. And that's a big thing because if you're like a one-child person, and in a one-child family, a parent who isn't responsible can just plant you in front of the computer and just let you there because they think that you're just having fun. But the problem is that you're sitting in front of the screen all day and, you know, there isn't much exercise and healthy things going on there that you normally would be doing without the computer. There's always like, you know, the educational things, but you have to think about like your growth and stuff like that. And something called the computer vision syndrome, which is a series of eye or vision problems caused by playing the computer excessively when you're little, mostly seen in adults. And they have eye blurriness, double vision, and it's pretty bad. It's from the child sitting in front of the computer like this and looking at the screen, and they don't have the brain capacity, they don't have the motor skills to think about how if there's a glare on the screen to like move the chair or move the computer or to blink. They just know that they have to stare at the computer because they're having fun. And it would cause serious problems in their eyes. Not to mention the back posture. And little kids, they don't usually sit up straight. They sit up like this. And it would make it pretty hard for them to, you know, limit themselves and sit in one position for so long. It just causes problems. But of course, if parents, you know, make their child have turns on the computer and move them and get them off the computer and make them do regular stuff, then it's not going to be a bad thing. And computers are used daily for a lot of people. With the advancement of the technology in the next generation is born to these advancements. Like they're born into it. As in the beginning video, more schools are being given like Apple products, like iPads and computers and laptops. And it's kind of crazy to think about, but when we were little, we were being called like the advanced generation because we were being grown into it, but they're being born into it, which I think is kind of crazy. But is the effects of using this technology every day helping them, or is it also hurting them? And I honestly say it's up to the parent to decide on the computers. But one thing that is used on computers is social networking, and Taylor is going to talk about that.
Okay, how many of you guys here have been on a social networking site or have a Facebook or a YouTube account? Okay, those are all social networking sites. Some pros to social networking is you can communicate easier between colleagues and friends and all your other family members instead of, like classmates, instead of having to go into school or go to a library to meet with your classmates to do a project, you can do it over a social networking site. As Dr. J had us do, going and logging onto his YouTube account is using a social networking site within the classroom. Virtual communities are formed online. People connect together for a purpose and goal and get together to unite as a group. There's multi-ethnic youth where people of multiple races are getting together and also joining groups, not just one group all together. And we also have fundraisers and the word getting out, meaning people are putting fundraisers up online, like on Facebook, they'll have people putting fundraisers up that will help your community or can also help you individually. Some facts about social networking. Facebook is the #1 social networking site. YouTube is the 3rd. YouTube has 2 billion users per day and handles 10% of the internet's traffic. An average YouTube user spends 900 seconds on YouTube per visitation to YouTube. 44% of YouTube's users are between the ages of 12 and 24. Over 829,000 videos are uploaded every day, and an average video duration is 2 minutes and 46 seconds. I have a little video for Facebook. Instead of showing you guys the video, I'll just go ahead and read them. It's all the same things that were on the video. There's 250 million photos are uploaded every day to Facebook. I myself do not upload photos continuously every day on Facebook. I actually haven't been on Facebook in like a month. But the 20% of all pages views are on Facebook, just meaning on all websites viewed, 25% just goes straight to Facebook. 425 million, there's 425 million mobile users, 100 billion connections worldwide, either through the phone, computer, and there's 2.7 billion likes per day going through just liking random things, and 57% of users are female. So females are more dominant when it comes to social networking. Some cons to social networking. It's a likely place for identity theft, meaning when you log into a social networking site, normally to sign up you have to give your name, your age, your birth date, your email, and this way people who, especially who are in illegal activities, go in and take your information and use your identity, so then therefore you are found guilty for whatever illegal activity that they were using. Cyberbullying is another big one. My friend last year on Facebook was cyberbullied through private messaging, calling her a couple of names that I'm not going to repeat, and bringing her down, and he asked her to, before he had started calling her names, he had asked her to meet her somewhere, and she declined, and that's when he started getting onto her and being a little nasty towards her. And we actually brought it to the attention of the police, and he's taken care of. But there's also inappropriateness. On Facebook especially, they cannot block certain websites, as most of you have, I'm sure know, because most of you are on Facebook. A few months ago we had the cartoon porn all over Facebook. That could not be blocked until it was brought to the attention of Facebook, then the company themselves, and they had to go in and block it. Kids can go on and find inappropriate pictures. Facebook doesn't censor pictures, so if some girl goes and takes a nude picture and puts it up on Facebook, it's not going to be censored. Whoever she's friends with, or whoever the friends are with, if it's not private, they can all see it. You become socially deprived if you're on Facebook or any other social networking site for too long. You depend on communicating through the social networking site. If you spend continuous hours on there, like I myself, I text like there's no tomorrow. And I will find myself talking and I will accidentally say LOL to a friend instead of actually laughing. And the same case happens in social networking. Some more facts. These are monthly active users for a majority of the social networking sites. For example, Facebook has 901 million active users. Pinterest has over 11 million. Foursquare, 20 million. Tag has 20 million. Instagram has 50 million. Tumblr has 59 million. Google Plus has 170 million more that upgrade to that from Google almost monthly. That was the past month that had upgraded. Social networking doesn't always have to be activated or gone to on computers. They can also be activated on mobile phones, which is becoming a new trend, and Kathleen's going to talk to you guys about that.
Cell phones are kind of prominent in our society. In 2004, about 40% of teenagers had a cell phone, but as of 2008, 90% of teenagers had cell phones. There are some pros and cons of cell phones that I'll talk to you about. Some pros are that there are safety issues. There's emergency and GPS tracking. 911 is available on your cell phones quite easily instead of having to go home and call 911. I was riding a golf cart, and I used to live in a really rural community where there was like only dirt roads, and the closest store was 5 miles away. And we were riding on a golf cart with like 6 of our friends, and we rolled the golf cart, and a piece of sheet metal chopped off half my friend's leg. Like it went like down the side of her leg and like took off all the skin here and the bones. And I was the only one out of the golf cart who wasn't hurt, so I had to run half a mile to the nearest house so I could call 911. But where if I would have had a cell phone at the time, it would have been really easier for me to call 911 and help save part of her leg. There's also GPS tracking. The still does think it's kind of like hinders our privacy when our parents get it on our cell phones. It does help us out a lot. Like, you think it's kind of weird that your parents can tell where you are at all times, but when you're kidnapped, you're kind of wishing that you would have had it. There's also responsibilities. Parents seem to think that cell phones are the root of all evil, but when you have like certain amount of minutes you're allowed to use each month and certain text messages you have to use each month, there's a portion control kind of thing that you have to do. And it's convenient. Instead of playing a telephone game with your mom after practice, when it ends 20 minutes early, you can just simply call her and send her a text for her to come now. There's also easily answered questions. Instead of just looking things up in your book like we used to do 40 years ago, we just type it into the Google and we figure it out. Some facts about cell phones. Cell phones can track your general location without you making a call. If you're in trouble and your parents have location, GPS location on your phone, they can easily contact you and figure out where you are without you making a call. And 80% of people feel more safe with their cell phone than they do without it. I kind of feel the same way. Like I feel naked without my cell phone. If I leave the house without it, I'm like, where's my cell phone? There's also some cons to cell phones. Some cons are that there's disruption in school, bullying, and texting and driving, where teachers used to yell at kids 40 years ago for passing notes and stuff. Now they yell at us for sending answers and texting in class. I'm sure some of us have tested for it, so like number 1A, number 2B to our friends. And it's kind of hard for teachers to control that when they can't see every text that every kid is sending. There's inappropriate pictures sent through text messages as well of kids like in the locker room and bullying, gossip like so-and-so did so-and-so with this, and sexting. 21% of teenagers said they've sexted before. And texting and driving is caused purely by cell phones. If we didn't have cell phones, that many people would have died each year from texting and driving. Some facts to do with cons in cell phones. Nearly 2/3 of cell phone users use their backlight as a flashlight. That's kind of sad to me because I remember when I was little and I'd crawl out of bed and go under the kitchen sink and open up the kitchen sink cabinet and get a flashlight and go looking for something in my room. Or now I just kind of like roll out of bed and pull it off the charger and look for it myself. Also, 60% of the radiation emitted from a cell phone goes straight into your head. Some people think that radiation can cause cancer, others don't, but 60% of the radiation is going into your head. 100 million cell phones are thrown away each year, and there's 14.3 billion unused cell phone lying around Australia, which is 3 times the population of New Zealand. In conclusion, whether it's educational or entertainment video games, social networking sites, or computers, and last but not least, the holy grail we call cell phones, kids have changed. 40 years ago, kids wouldn't have answered the questions we just answered and raised our hands to. They wouldn't have even known what we were talking about. And it's kind of up to you whether or not to decide the pros outweigh the cons of education,